it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. Ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it.
It's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. Ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. It's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma, gotta
this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And we are back for another week of the show. We are streaming live and direct on X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on the gram live. What's going on, Instagram people? We are also streaming live and direct on LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Facebook Live, Amazon Fire TV, as well as Roku TV. You can catch all of those on the Empower TV platform. If it's Instagram, it's Empower_TV. If it is YouTube, it is Empower TV. And on Facebook, it is under Empower TV, as well as on LinkedIn. So you can check us out on all those platforms. We stream live. We also have our other live show on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Called Head to Head Sports, along with myself and my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. We do break down 26 weeks out of the year, which is 6 months, the NFL season. If you didn't know, the last week of the regular season was upon us on Sunday. But wait, ladies, don't celebrate just yet, because the end of the regular season means it's playoff time, baby. So it ain't over yet. Even though the college football season did end this past Monday between Michigan and Washington, college football season is over. But we still got just a few more weeks left of the NFL. And let's be honest, the NFL season doesn't really ever die. It's really become more of a year-round league, as far as, even though there may not be games on the field, there's always things going on in the background that if you are a professional football junkie, you can find some things other than maybe that month of June where there's really not a lot going on leading up until training camp. Normally after the Super Bowl, there's about a month before the new season technically begins, and players can then start signing on to different teams. Different teams can start courting players and things like that. But we've had a whole lot of drama already since Black Monday began, effectively 12 o'clock on Monday, when coaches started getting fired. And most notably, Lori, I don't know if you saw this, but two of the most long tenured coaches in the NFL, both 72 years old, I think, have been asked to part ways. One being Pete Carroll with the Seattle Seahawks, longtime coach there. And more notably today, which if you watch head-to-head sports, we were predicting that Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots would be no more, and that was made official today.
I am waiting to see what his next move is going to be. He's always crafty in that sweatsuit.
It should be a cabin at Lake Tahoe. However, unfortunately, my owner here in Carolina may make a run for him, which would be...
No, he's too busy throwing drinks on people, but I'm just saying.
Well, in between throwing the drinks, he's going to potentially negotiate a contract with Bill Belichick and try to bring him to Carolina, which I think would be absolutely crazy. I think he should retire because in 24 seasons with the Patriots, they went to they have 12 AFC championships and 6 Super Bowls. He's only a few. Now, the thing that may bring him back is, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's a handful of wins behind Don Shula for most wins.
Yes.
Ego alone would probably make him want to take on a coaching job. But if the idea is to get wins, coming to Carolina ain't gonna do it. You ain't gonna win no time soon.
And what team is he going to win?
Well, there are a couple of openings this year. I just mentioned the Seahawks is open, which I couldn't see him doing that because it would be funny because Pete Carroll used to be the coach of the New England Patriots back in the day. And then he ended up at Seattle. So it would be funny to see Belichick end up at the same place Carroll was. You've got the LA Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders that have openings. You've got the Atlanta Falcons that have opening. Of course, I mentioned Carolina. Trying to think who else got canned. I think that was it, actually. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Las Vegas would be interesting. I think with their new stadium and everything, it might be an interesting, and that might be, and especially with some of the controversy from Bill Belichick, maybe he might go to Vegas. Who knows?
Well, I'm still kind of holding out my prediction that there may be one more firing coming. And I'm thinking it's going to be in New Orleans, where I think the players proved on Sunday that they have absolutely no respect at all for Dennis Allen, the coach there, because as they were beating Atlanta for nothing, once Tampa Bay won their game, Tampa basically won the NFC South, and the other two NFC South teams, Atlanta and New Orleans, basically had nothing to play for. But New Orleans was already beating Atlanta, I want to say 41-0. I mean, not 41, 41-14 or something like that. And it was at the closing minutes of that game, closing seconds of that game, the head coach told the players on the sidelines, y'all go ahead and do a kneel down, getting what they call victory formation. It's a shape of a V. They get down and basically signal to the defense, we have no intention of going another yard. Matter of fact, when you take a kneel down, you lose the yard because you're behind the line of scrimmage. So we're going to do that so that the clock will continue to run. It'll run. You've seen it plenty of times in games where the clock is running and the players are already run to the middle of the field to shake hands and everything, because technically the time on the clock is shorter than the amount on the play clock to run another play. It's 40 seconds on the play clock. So if you take a kneel down with 35 seconds left, you don't have to run another play. The game clock will run out before the play clock does, basically. So that's what they signaled to the defense. But the players said, hey, one of our guys hadn't scored a touchdown all year. Wouldn't it be cool if we let him get in the end zone and get his touchdown for the year? So the coach, and they said it to the coach, hey, wouldn't it be cool if he, yeah, but let's just go ahead, in the name of sportsmanship, we've already beat him. Let's just go ahead, get in victory, and take this on home. So they got in victory, but before they got in victory, the backup quarterback, Jameis Winston, said to the players, what y'all want to do? We want to get them a touchdown. All right, let's do it. So they got in victory formation like they normally would, signaling to the defense, we're not going to move another yard. And they actually ran a play where he ended up getting the touchdown, and they ended up scoring 48 points.
Nice.
That is terrible. Absolutely terrible. That was so unprofessional. It was absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna tell you why, because I can understand why you would think that. You would think for the player that's really good that he got his touchdown. When you signal to the other defense, when you signal to the defense across from you that you're not going to run another play, you're just going to take a knee, they are not prepared for the players in front of them to push them over. because you
I
don't
understand that.
so there's a risk of injury for nothing. You already won the game. You already beat them in the name of sportsmanship. Now, if you planned on getting the touchdown for the guy and you wanted to do that and say, well, hey, we're going to play to the end and it's your job to stop us, play some damn defense, then fine. Line up like you normally would to run a play to let the defense know that you have every intention of running another play. Line up that way. Because when you're in victory formation, the other team gets in a formation that is not a defensive posture. It's basically like somebody sucker punching you. If you were in a boxing match with somebody and you both have your hands up, that is a defensive posture to let the other person know I'm expecting incoming. When you drop your gloves because you're under the impression that it's over and they hit you after the bell, you don't say great. That's below the belt, you know? So that's really in crossing over those analogies. That's basically what they did. And at the end of the game, the coach for the Atlanta Falcons was chewing out the coach for the Saints. And he was trying to explain to him, I did not call that. My players went rogue. And then when the media got in front of the quarterback to ask him, hey, what happened? He proudly said we disrespected. He didn't say it the way I'm saying it, but effectively is what he said. Yeah, we disrespected the coach. He told us to go ahead and kneel down, but we thought it would be better to blah, 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 blah. Can't work like that. When you the coach, one voice, you know what they say back in drumline? One voice, one sound. It's got to be that way. If the coach does not have the respect of his team where they won't do stuff like go rogue like that, his days are numbered. Oh, I know what the other franchise was. I was just thinking about it. Washington Commanders, Ron Rivera is no longer there. So would Bill Belichick go to Washington? If he
No.
if he went to any other franchises, it'd be Washington. You got the guy that just bought the franchise along with Magic Johnson and them. He gets to work with Magic and them all day in Washington. Yeah.
And they'll have coffee as well.
Well,
I'm just saying, Starbucks,
of course.
a lot of franchises.
But so now you got the Commanders who sold that franchise last year from Daniel Snyder. The new group came in. They kept Ron Rivera for a year, basically to see, hey, we're not going to come in and just throw everything away. We'll give them a year, see what happens. And they didn't really do too much. So, Magic is going to want a winning coach. They've got a lot of money to be able to throw at Bill Belichick. They may be one of the few franchises where Bill Belichick actually will have the ability not only to be the head coach, but they may also let him do what he did in New England, where he was the coach and the general manager. So he made a lot of the personnel decisions. Bill Belichick is one of those controlling guys that he don't want to eat the food that you've prepared. He want to be the one to go buy the groceries and fix the food himself. So the coach normally eats and prepares the food that's been bought. He want to go buy the groceries too. The general manager is responsible for buying the groceries, to use that analogy, Lori. That's what the general manager does. Now, the general manager and coach work together to identify what kind of players he needs, but ultimately it's up to the general manager to go find them, to make the personnel decisions. The coach in a lot of these places, Lori, actually take on both duties, and sometimes that's not the right way to do it. You need a little bit of separation of powers and separation of accountability. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say in our household, I'm basically, because if you're using the food analogy with the groceries, that's me. I buy it, I do this one, and I cook it because I'm cooking. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how this got to be about you fixing food, but if you want
No. As I said, being in charge, the controlling thing.
I know maybe you was telling me you wanted to go fix a sandwich.
No, I didn't want to fix the sandwich. I just was saying that in your analogy about control, especially with Bill Belichick, I'm kind of like the Bill Belichick in this household,
Not
but
even.
way better looking.
Not even. Anyway, so a lot of these people, even like you take Jerry Jones, he went the other route. He's a general manager and the owner. Again, same issue. It's too much control for one person to have, because sometimes the GM has to push back on the coach, and sometimes the coach has to push back on the GM. When they're the same person, you really can't do that. So that makes it even harder. So they need to figure that out. So I think even Belichick realized that he was getting a lot of pushback for having both roles, and had even told the press the other day that he would be willing to explore the possibility of just being the coach and relinquishing the GM responsibilities, but that obviously wasn't enough to convince Robert Kraft to keep him. You got to think about it. When you've been in a relationship for 24 years, um, there's a certain sense of predictability. And then there's just probably a certain sense of, hey, been there, done that. I've seen this movie too many times before. It's just time to move on, get some new blood in here. Everybody knows when they walk through the door what that coach is going to say, because they hear it year after year after year. Yada, 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 yada. Okay, coach, we know the story you're going to tell. The old war stories and stuff like that. Same thing with Pete Carroll. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Tomlin is probably the longest tenured coach in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And congratulations to him for 17 consecutive years of a non-losing season. Um, when you look at all the other franchises around the league, uh, nobody else can really say that we've enjoyed 17 consecutive years of not losing, not having
Black and yellow, black and yellow.
that is something that just does not naturally happen. So there's consistency in that organization that other organizations envy a lot, because you could have like the Rams that won the Super Bowl 2 or 3 years ago, then follow up the next year and can't even win 8 games. It's hard to continue success and to maintain success. So when you can see a franchise do that, that is what you try to emulate. And that's what the Patriots were during Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's run. They were the standard that other teams went by. But at some point, Lori, when you talk about Pete Carroll being 70 years old, you talk about Bill Belichick being 70 years old, there's a point where people wonder, maybe time has just passed these guys by. They've The NFL has evolved over the years. The players that come out today don't have that same kind of mentality as the ones that came out years prior. They're more in tune with social media and clicks and likes, and things that are about their brand and all those kind of things, where in years past it really wasn't about that. It was more about team first, player low on that totem pole as far as that list. Players are a lot more active these days, Nate. You see them not just on social media, but you may see them involved in politics. You may see a lot of different things from these players that you didn't see before. So that coach having the ability to connect with his players becomes even more and more important. And when you take somebody like a Belichick, who basically was more concerned about the name on the front of the jersey, the team name, than the name on the back of the jersey, that doesn't always resonate with today's players. So when you're trying to connect with them and send that message, they may not be as receptive as players previously were. Doesn't mean that he's not a good coach, but part of coaching is your relationships. You know this, in any company, it's your leader gets the most out of the employees when they're able to connect with their team. Football is one of the greatest examples of how a team works, whether it's on a field or whether it's around the boardroom. Is being able to connect with your team determines how your leadership is going to go ultimately. If you can't connect with your team, it doesn't matter what you know. They don't give a damn. Would you agree with that?
That is a great way to put it. And obviously in connecting that, and also at the end of the day, it's a business, and it's all about making money at some point, so, and maximizing that through your relationships and everything else. So it's a business,
It
so.
is and that's a bigger part of it too. It's a business. The NFL is no different than any other team in at a business where results have to be updated. You have to continuously update your resume. Yeah, you won 6 Super Bowls, but you ain't done nothing since Tom Brady left. So while people will sit there and revere you for what you've done, you still can't just live off of that. And yes, Dallas Cowboy fans, I'm talking about y'all ass too. You can't just keep calling yourself America's team and you ain't been to an NFC championship game in 28 years. At some point, you can't, I mean, hell, you could get high, but you can't still be high 28 years later. You're going to have to hit it again at some point to feel that high. That's the analogy I'm gonna use there, as if I'm, a chronic smoker. But you can't just live off the fumes of yesteryear. You have to be able to show somebody over the last year or two, this is what we've done, and it's been a positive thing. You can't say, well, back before your kids was born, this is what we did. Don't nobody want to hear that. And with Belichick, that was going to be the thing too. And with Pete Carroll, that was going to be the thing too. Pete Carroll, people think about Seattle Seahawks. They think about Russell Wilson. They think about the Legion of Boom, Bobby Wagner. They think about all those guys back in the day where they won that one Super Bowl. But that's all they're really known for. Even though they did have success winning, it didn't translate into any additional Super Bowls. So you can't live off of that forever. People will remember you. Phil Jackson won 6 rings with the Bulls, won some more with the Lakers. But at a certain point, you ain't win another one. Okay, you got 8, but you ain't win another one. They always looking for what have you done for me lately. And whether you Bill Belichick, whether you Mike Tomlin, whether you're Pete Carroll, those questions are going to come into play. So that's what's
Well,
going on in the NFL. Yes.
well, I'm going to sit here and say this way on your little on your talk. I'm just going to play this now.
Damn!
Way to break it down, sir. Way to break it down.
Thank you very much. And everybody, to let you know too, we are short of some of our panelists today, but we also on the show do advertise. So if you do have a good or service that you would like to advertise, please let us know. Reach out to us. If you don't have any commercial experience, please reach out to me. Between the two of us, we can cut something together that will let people know. Just to let you know, Amazon Fire TV, Lori, has over 150 million users worldwide.
Woohoo!
Roku also has 150 million users worldwide as well too. So if you have a product, a good or a service that can be sent, whether you have a bakery, whether you do printing, whether you do all kinds of things that can be shipped, there are people all over the world that will watch and potentially reach out to you. I know that advertising on some of the bigger media platforms costs a lot of money. And when you're a small business, your overhead is everything. Sometimes you don't pay yourself because you're trying to get your business off the ground. And you use social media to be able to get the word out a lot of times. And what we want to do is just give you one more platform to be able to connect with potential customers. So reach out to us and let us know. Lori, I was just looking at the analytics right before the show. Already this month, something is brewing in Brazil because we've got more viewers this month already from Brazil than we do from the United States.
Well, that could be attributed to one of our panelists who's not here. I guess you've always said for the franchise.
That's right.
I think somewhere down there. There's
That's
always on that way. Absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate your franchise from bringing in all of our Brazil viewers. We know that you're doing that. If you are currently watching and you're in Brazil, thank you for watching. We've also had from time to time people from China and Russia tune in, so
Thank you.
Thank you.
appreciate it. So it's really, really good to see that. We thank everybody that's on YouTube that has been just helping us blow up the viewership on YouTube. We really appreciate that too. So thank you. Thank you very much. But let's show them what one of the commercials looks like, Lori. So let's go into the Jermaine Parker Realty commercial right now. Let's play this clip. Buying a home is one of the biggest decisions that you'll make. Here at Jermaine Parker Realty, we're here to help you navigate through that process. We know that a home is more than just a place to live. It creates memories. Here at Jermaine Parker Realty, we're here to help. Give us a call and let us get started on your journey. We do it just like that. And as a matter of fact, we're going to show you one more. This was from a brother-sister team that has come up with a new children's book called Sawyer Kid Lawyer. Really, really entertaining book. It definitely helps your little one with reading, writing, and spelling. And they joined us a couple of weeks ago, and we decided to help them out with promoting their book. So check this clip out. Introducing Sawyer Kid Lawyer, Teacher versus Nap Time. A great book that will help your little one with reading, writing, and spelling. Coming from the authors Shanine and Sheldon Moultrie. Please check this book out and support. Thank you so much. There we go. So we will definitely make sure that we can promote this, and just remember that it does air on all of the platforms. And if you need extra advertising, we can make it repeat on those platforms more often, so more people can actually see it and drive more business to your website, your webpage, etc. So just let us know. That's what we're here for. Isn't that right, Lori?
Absolutely. I was speaking to a colleague of mine about the channel, and speaking to another person who is another author, and promoting her book. So I was telling her about our commercial and services. So it actually is a great platform for us to sit there and to be able to promote. So, and it's helped contributing to your bottom line and our bottom line at some point. So we just love to be in there promoting your business, being also part of the community as well.
And let's just keep it real too. That voiceover guy,
just hot. He's just super hot.
so
Super hot.
or if you got somebody else that you want to do the voiceover, it doesn't have to be me.
Oh
You can
no. We need to have that guy.
that dude. So yeah, it's really cool. But at the end of the day, we definitely want to be able to help you guys promote whatever it is that you do. A lot of you have full-time jobs where you do other things, but maybe a passion that you're just trying to get off of the ground. And again, you a lot of times defer payment to yourself because you're trying to put everything back into your business. Advertising is something that's needed. There are a lot of social media channels, which is good, but being able to expand past your social media reach. I know that I've done advertisements and things like that. Even when I use Lori, I've used leads on Facebook where you pay for that advertising to get the reach and everything else, and you have to set those daily budgets and things like that. Everybody doesn't have that to set aside like that for the budgets and things like that. It can get rather cumbersome and expensive. A lot of times, even if you just spend $50 in a week, it may get you 5,000 views, but out of those views, then you got to look at your click-through rate and your conversion rate. How many people click on it, how many people then click on it to go to your web page to make that purchase and everything else like that. So a lot of times you could be spending that $50 and then you don't see a return on it. Well, that's $200 a month on a low end of a budget, that if you don't see any return from it, then you feel like a sap, because you're spending over $2,000 a year in that advertising and not seeing a return. So it can add up. And when you're a very, very small business just starting out and things like that, you definitely feel like you want to be able to see something. So hopefully we can help more and more folks be able to realize some potential for expanding their base like that. If you reach out to us right now, the service is totally free for the month of January, February, and March. So I will throw that out as a nice incentive. Won't charge you a dime for it.
And on that note, on that incentive, I'm going to say,
Got him. We fucking got him.
so
Yeah, you like you have an itchy trigger finger. You just been wanting to play certain clips and stuff.
something like that.
Okay, all right. Before I get into the main topic, I do want to ask if you saw any of the Cat Williams interview that Shannon Sharp did on his Club Shay Shay podcast, or if you saw any clips, or if you've heard anything, or anything that you thought was pretty interesting about Cat and him bearing his soul out with Unc Shannon.
Well, I didn't have a chance to watch it. What I have been thoroughly entertained is from my friends on Facebook and through the many memes that I've seen gone passed around. And with a lot of things that have been going on, I wanted to be able to actually watch it on this way, because it's everybody's talking about it, and the hate is really interesting.
I mean, he said a lot of stuff. He definitely ruffled a lot of feathers, and then come to find out he's going on a tour. So I don't know if some of that was just to simply,
Oh yes,
you know,
the tour dates, and they're coming to Charlotte too.
yeah. So some of that is promotion, which is what I was just talking about with your good of service, and publicity, positive or negative, sometimes helps gin that up. He said a lot of controversial stuff. I won't get into all of that on there. Some of it, folks have come out and said, yeah, that some of that is true. It was kind of funny. A lot of folks that did comment on it said, yeah, some of that was true the way he told it. Like he brought up the allegation that on the set of Friday, Ricky Smiley was going around telling everybody that he was supposed to be Money Mike, not Santa Claus. Hell, I didn't even know that was Ricky Smiley. That was Santa Claus. Till they said that, I was like, really? That was Ricky? Anyway, but that and then Cat, disputed that, because he was like, I don't know how that can be, because I'm the one that wrote the what Money Mike was saying and stuff. And then Ice Cube came back, and then he even said that he got them on Friday to cut out a scene where Money Mike was going to get raped in the bathroom and stuff like that. And Cube tried to be diplomatic and basically say, it's been a long time since it came out. People going to sometimes remember things different ways. He said, but yeah, Cat was somewhat correct about writing pieces for Money Mike, because he said that, hey, when you got somebody that's good and you got magic, you just want to roll with it. And that as they were filming, they realized that Cat was doing so good that they expanded the role for Money Mike, and he did help collaborate a lot of what it was that Money Mike ended up saying. Because a lot of times they do different takes on a set, and I know this to be true, that they may do different takes. They may say, okay, in this one, just go with it. Use some of the script, but then just feel free to ad lib, improvise, because a lot of comedians improvise anyway. That's part of their shtick. So depending on what ends up making it into the film, and people have to realize this too. When you're filming, and I'm letting you know this as an actor, when you're filming, everything that you film doesn't make it into the final. Think about when actors are on set, that being the rough draft to a paper. Then they have to then go into what they call post-production and figure out what parts of that draft they want to include and what parts they don't want to include. So you could shoot 15 hours of footage and make a 2-hour movie out of it. What happened to all that other footage? Oh, they have it, they just didn't use it. That's why, if you've ever noticed, have you ever seen later on where they have an extended version or they have an alternate version and things like that? Well, they didn't bring everybody back together and reshoot the damn thing. They already had this footage and they pieced it together so that it would have a different outcome or it would be extended. Maybe they added an extra 30 minutes. Well, where the hell did they get the extra 30 minutes? They already had it. There you go. There's a secret. So there's a lot of filming. I remember being on set, Lori, one time for Gotham, where we shot for 14 hours, and by the time it appeared on Fox, it lasted less than 30 seconds. That particular scene. Some of what we shot didn't even make it. A lot of what we shot didn't make it. Because what will happen is they'll look at the footage and they'll kind of decide, okay, this angle looks good, that angle looks good. This makes sense as far as this piece of this shot is more relevant to telling the story. Some of this other stuff is superfluous. We don't need to add it in there. So a lot of times the producers and the editors will get together and figure out how to stitch the story together. The other thing that you don't always realize is that it doesn't necessarily film in order. So when you look at the beginning of a program, you're going to assume, well, they filmed this scene first, and then they filmed this scene, and they filmed that scene. And it doesn't work like that either. A lot of times, they may film them out of sequence, and then when they're in the editing process, go back and put them in whatever order they want to. Whichever order they feel like gives it a better flow, tells the story better, that's the way that they do it, but they're not beholden to the script and film it in actual order. So they could film the last, and sometimes it may even depend on simply, hey, the next 3 days is going to be raining. We can't film that, so we got to film this other thing in the studio that doesn't matter whether it's raining outside or not. So sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes you need it to be a sunny day, and the forecast says that it's going to be snowy or cloudy. And you got to wait for the next time that it's going to be sunshine enough outside. Or maybe you do need a rainy day and you're waiting for the rain, because it's very hard to produce a lot of fake rain. Maybe you want to use real rain. And all those kind of things kind of play into it, Lori, but that's how it goes. So when Kat was talking about the film of Friday, Ice Cube said, yeah, some of these people may remember it a little bit different, but he said, look, if you've seen any of my films, I ain't filming no rape scene. He said, if I really felt like it needed to be in the story to help tell the story, I would have put it in there. There wouldn't have been anything wrong with it. He said, but that really isn't my thing. So Cat kind of made a proclamation that he helped kind of steer the story different, that it didn't need that element in it, and he was opposed to it, and he kind of put his foot down, and they backed off of that part of the story. And Ice Cube was like, I don't know what he's talking about. That never happened. He said, but some of the stuff Cat said was true. So it was just kind of funny how he was remembering things, but then some people said, well, this part I kind of remember, that part, that's a bit much.
Well,
Cat was talking about Lori, that he ran a 4.5 in the 40-yard dash. He was great at basketball. He has a high IQ. He was on the streets of Miami after he left home because him and his dad could not live under the same roof. And that because he was so young, he was like 13 living out on the streets down in Florida, I believe it was, making $2,000 a day. stealing car radios, but having to live on the streets because he wasn't old enough to get an apartment.
Again, I didn't see that part.
You know how
But
Steve Harvey said that he was homeless? He said Steve Harvey ain't never been homeless. He said that's his story. He said Steve stole his story. He talked about how Cedric stole his joke.
well, that part I was kind of interesting. Like when I think someone, again, I haven't seen it, but someone was playing the back to back, especially with the comedy show. Gosh, why it just totally went out of my head.
Comic View.
Yes, Comic View, and then the side by side, and then the running of the same jokes. Or I thought what was really entertaining was about the comment about the toupee. That
About
just was
about
hilarious.
Steve Harvey having a toupee and him being country and talking about OBKB. I mean, he was going all in, talking about Steve, talking about Kevin Hart, talking about Bruce, talking about Faison, just he went in. Ricky, and he really went in on Ricky Smiley, talking about he play a woman better than he play a man. Um, that's why you only see him and Tyler Perry constantly doing that, because they play women better than they can play men.
Well, and I also had a comment, or I had a question about, I think it was one of the videos or something that I think he was directing to Kevin Hart about a bet, $5 million or something like that.
I can't remember what that one was about, but yeah, I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about.
it's something like on tour, and he put the money where his mouth is. And again, when I watched it, because I didn't see the whole interview, and even when they were commenting about getting on Shannon Sharp on This Way on the Style, and why didn't they like it, just kind of, like, I think I need to watch it.
Well, Shannon had already interviewed other people like Sid and Steve and Kevin. So he was letting Cat make his piece. He didn't really push back on the claims, because how could he? He wasn't there. How can he push back and say, well, Steve said this and that? Everybody's going to bring their own point of view. I thought Shannon did a great interview. I think Shannon Sharp is highly talented because he brings in a certain sense of approachability. It was clear when he was on Undisputed with Skip Bayless that he was always very prepared about the content. And that's something that people sometimes discount about former athletes, is that, okay, if you put a former athlete on a sports show, where they're going to know a whole lot about the sport that they came from, but what is this football player going to be able to know about baseball and basketball and hockey and golf and all these other sports, to be able to competently chip in on different things that go around? Well, Shannon sat there and made sure that he understood enough about the rules of the other leagues and stuff to be able to make accurate and relevant uh, uh, contributions when they talked about things outside of football. So it wasn't like he was just there for football, because it was a total sports show. So you had to be able to know some of the rules about basketball and golf and all those different kinds of things. So he made sure that he was prepared. When he left Undisputed, went over the First Take, same thing. They bring him in mostly for the season and to be able to talk about football, but then they started expanding it, and him being able to provide feedback on things outside of football. Then he started his YouTube channel and came out with Club Shay Shay, which he'll sit down and interview people. And then he also has Nightcap with Chad Ochocinco, Chad Johnson, and they are hilarious on Nightcap. Ocho just a lot of times will just he give him his show. Chad is hilarious. If you've never watched Nightcap with Unc and Ocho, it's called Unc and Ocho Nightcap, and they are hilarious because they basically just peel back the onion a little bit and go in. Sometimes it's about sports. A lot of time it isn't. I know one time Ocho was sitting there talking about Shannon, I'm to my uncle, I'm gonna try to set you up with Megan Thee Stallion. And then Shannon was just kind of going in about, now Megan don't want to see me. He said because I go long and deep.
Okay, I'm not gonna comment on that one, but I do remember, see, there was a show or I saw a clip.
Only reason I comment on that, Lori, because that used to be my nickname.
Absolutely. That was way before me, but okay, I'm a ride with that one. But the one thing
They
that I
did
did
too.
appreciate about Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco is the I love the fact between the two of them is that Chad just kind of it's kind of like a yin and a yang. He just
Yeah.
plays off and it's just so seamless. And it was he was talking
Chad,
about dating. He was
yeah,
talking about dating and bringing a woman home and
yes,
this way, or like if we're in a relationship for this way, I'm gonna do this, but if you can't do this, I don't want you in my house. But he was talking about his dog. That's what he was talking about, his dog. And
you
it's
missed
just like,
you missed the one they were talking about relationships, and Shannon brought up the story about how he was just starting out as an NFL player, and and he took this girl on a date, and she was sitting there looking at the menu and stuff, and and she was sitting there talking about she was looking at the menu about the I want to say it was crab legs or something like that or lobster, and she says, I wonder what comes with that. And he looked at her and he said, condoms, because if you get that, that's what you're gonna need.
well, it was absolutely, it was just something, because he
But
was talking about, I think in this relationship in the episode I saw, that they were talking about, if we're in a household, there's certain things that I'm going to cover.
yeah, yeah.
And it was just like in the play. But I loved the fact that Chad Ochocinco was like, you sure, Unc? And he just kind of leads right into it, and it's like it's just seamless, and it's
Yeah.
just actually to where I want to just actually sit there and watch it. And I keep saying to myself, oh, I gotta sit here and do that.
You feel the uncle nephew uh ish relationship between the two of them, the deference that he'll give to Shannon because
Hmm.
he's the older statesman. And a lot of times he'll just kind of have that unfiltered comeback comments and stuff like that. Like he'll just say whatever comes to the top of his head and stuff. Um, but they are ultimately hilarious. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go to Club Shay Shay and Nightcap. Make sure that you do that so every time that they do post a new video, you'll be notified. Or when you go to YouTube, it'll pop up on your suggested list, giving them a plug. It's a good show. Um, I found another one to be pretty good. I caught it once or twice, and that was the one that Mace and Cameron have. I can't think of the name of it right now, but Mace and Cameron have a sports show too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, and it's actually pretty good. Now, most of their sports is based on New York sports, heavy with the Knicks, heavy with the Giants, you know, heavy with the
Okay,
Knicks.
I see the Knicks. Well,
Look,
that's
if you
yeah.
are if you are a New Yorker, for bad or worse, the Knicks are your team for the most part. New Yorkers ride with their Knicks because they keep expecting at some point Dolan to die and somebody to take over that franchise and do something good with it
He's
and re-
holding on like death
and, re-
grip.
and restore
Death.
the lore of the Big Apple uh, through the Knicks and everything. So they always just keep holding against hope that the Knicks are ever going to be worth a damn again.
Because that is just awful.
It
Awful.
is, but
Awful.
they have a good show. So there's a lot of good podcasts out there. Um, but yeah, it's good to be able to see those expanding. I know that Stephen Jones and who's Steve doing that show with on that podcast? I ain't seen it in a while, so I want to say Paul George, but that might not be right. But Steven Jackson, former player, and he had a podcast too, and that was pretty good when I used to watch it, but then I didn't watch it too much after that. But It was really, really good. I actually may need to kind of creep back in. And a lot of it too is they're unfiltered. They just say what they got to say. They ain't trying to find the right politically correct word to fill into this blank. They just say if it's bullshit, it's bullshit. They ain't gonna try to say, "Oh man, that's a bunch of crap." No, 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 no. Sorry. So make sure if you're watching it and you got kids, you got your headphones in because they more than likely gonna say some stuff. That's for sure. Even Stephen A. Smith has the Stephen A. Smith show that he's been doing on his YouTube channel, and it's pretty good too. You can kind of see Stephen A. angling for more multi media stuff outside of just sports, where it looks like he's gonna, because he's been weighing in on political things and stuff like that. Now I know he's got some beef going on right now with Stephen. Is it
Whitaker?
not no Whitlock?
Whitlock, excuse me. I
I
said
don't think it's
Whitaker.
Stephen, but I know it's Whitlock.
It's
Uh,
Whitlock, and then the beef between them. Yes.
So I know he's got a thing with Whitlock. I got a beef with Whitlock because Whitlock is a sellout. But that's just my opinion about that. When he was working with Fox, you just didn't see that. But then after that, now he's this rebranded Republican wingnut that goes around talking about the sanctity of the home and the mom and the dad and the institution. But a lot of stuff he says makes it sound like he believes that women should, there's only two places that a woman should be. He kind of has that, a lot of these right wingers, Lori, the reason that they're like that, women in these parties believe in this subservience to a man. And a lot of that they attest to biblical teachings where it says the man is the head. And the fact that the woman should show deference to her husband. I think that is what the Bible intended before Jesus came into the scene. When there was when there was an Old Testament, there were certain things where the punishment would be death. In the Old Testament, there were things that were mentioned because there had not been that one pure representative to come along and because following your husband wasn't going to forgive your sins. At that point, the way that you would be forgiven for your sins is you'd have to kill a firstborn of something and shed some blood. The whole introduction of the New Testament brings Jesus into the picture, where now he is supposed to wash away your sins. You don't have to. That's why we ain't sitting there with a bunch of dead carcasses all over the place anymore every time people sin. When the last time you saw somebody at a market talking about, hey, I need your firstborn goat, male goat, because I've been really naughty. I need to kill this something gun so I can wash away my sins. Now, washing away your sins is supposed to be, repenting and asking and praying through, Jesus, or letting him bear your sins on the cross and let them die there. Take them to the cross. That's what they say. Take it to the cross. So you don't need your husband to lead you anymore, because the leader is supposed to be, if that's where you're at in your walk, it's supposed to be God. It's supposed to be your walk with him and your spouse's walk with him. So you don't have to be led around like a piece of property by your husband. Ladies, I'm trying to free you. That's a bunch of shit. There are men that traditionally believe, hey, I'm the head of the house. That's fine. Those are more about titles and roles than to say being the head of the house does not mean you dominate your wife. And I think that some equate the two. Being the head just simply means that, hey, I'm in the hotel business. When I was a general manager, it was, hey, somebody's got to be the person that's accountable when things go south. But I have a team of people that I hold in high esteem that work with me and for me, that I don't see my role as dominating them. I see my role as leading them, and they defer to me out of respect. It's the same analogy we were talking about earlier with the head coach. If you wear the title of head coach, yet your players are sitting there going behind your back and saying, we're going to do this anyway, then they are not recognizing you as the leader. That's all. The Bible does not say a woman has to sit there and do everything that her husband tells her to do. Defer to him. He is the dominant. But there are a lot of folks that grow up in these households, and that's what they get from that. That's what they hear. The Bible says about women, submit to your husband as to Christ. Christ is the leader of your household now. The two of you are tied together. I don't remember in any wedding when they bring out the strands of rope and everything where it looks like the rope on the husband's side is stronger than the rope on the wife's side.
It's not.
And then when the Bible also talks about being equally yoked, how the hell can you be equally yoked when one of you is bigger than the other?
Well,
see, these fake ass Christians want to sit there and nitpick stuff that sound good to them, and then they sit there. Yeah, I am. They sit there and they create a whole ideology based off of this book that was supposed to be more of a guide to how you are supposed to have your daily walk. And it's so funny to see how these people nitpick. Lori, do you know that abortion isn't mentioned anywhere in the Bible?
that is correct.
Yet people will tell you that they are quote unquote pro-life because of their religious beliefs. Well, which
Well,
one?
that's a hypocrisy.
Yeah, but I'm saying, so show me where your religious belief is connected to that. They can't.
No, they're always babbling, or they always deflect, or circle back to
See,
something.
I'm good at redirection, so you can't deflect with me. If you tell me that you are against abortion because of your religious beliefs, I'm gonna sit there and say, all right, show it to me. What book you reading from? You want the King James version? You want the Temperate version? You want the Doo-Doo Brown version? What version of the Bible do you want to read from to tell me about your views on abortion and telling me? Now, if it's your moral belief, meaning that it's your certain sense of morality, I can't argue with that because some people's morality is different than others. That's fine. But if you're going to tie it to your Christian beliefs that abortion should not be, in all cases, should be outlawed, show it to me. Anytime that you're ready to have an argument with somebody or a debate, you should be able to base it on facts. You should be able to point to certain things to say and not sit there and stretch shit out where you go, okay, well, this is what he was trying to say. I don't need you to sit there and get in the mind of Jesus and tell me what you think Jesus meant. Please don't be that person, because I'm gonna hurt your feelings. Barely could pass school, and now all of a sudden you clairvoyant and you're gonna be able to tell me what Jesus had on his mind when he was saying stuff. He ain't say it quite this way, but I know that's what he meant. Jesus. The one thing about Jesus that I read in the Bible was he seemed like a pretty straightforward dude.
I think so.
He can't tell you what it is. He might break it down in parables so that you could kind of understand the significance of what he was saying. But for the most part, from what I read, Jesus was pretty straightforward. You ain't really got to sit there and dig underneath and say, I think maybe he meant this or maybe he meant that. Nah, Jesus pretty much told you. You know, when he turned over the tables and stuff like that, I think he pretty much telling you how he felt about that. And that's another thing. Old Testament, talked about, observing the Sabbath and things like that. Well, if that's the case, why are you doing stuff on Sunday? See, you can't nitpick stuff. Why y'all watching football on Sunday? Can't tell you that, can they? Lord, I could go all day about the hypocrisy. I'm not trying to just nail down Christians, but what I'm saying is there comes a time when you can't tie your religious beliefs into everything, because everything ain't tied to that. If you don't agree with abortion, my recommendation is don't have one. Not sit there and say, well, because it's my religious beliefs, we gonna make it where can't nobody have one. There was a lady in Texas that had to actually go to a judge, a man, and ask for permission to have an abortion because her fetus had been declared he wasn't going to be viable. Uh, Either was going to be stillborn, die before she had him, or die immediately after she had him. And the judge said, this definitely qualifies for our exception that the government passed. And he said, be well, go consult with your doctor, do what you got to do. Wow. First and foremost, you shouldn't have to go to a judge. Everybody can't afford lawyers to go to judges every time they need a damn abortion. But so she was able to do that, and the judge ruled in her favor. He used common sense and said, there is no viability of this fetus. Why make her go through having something inside of her die? That's ridiculous. It was the the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who then sent letters to the hospitals that doctor practiced at and said, if you go through with this, I don't care what the judge said, you will be criminally liable for having an abortion. That was the hill he wanted to die on. Basically threatening these hospitals that if you go forward with this, you could be on the hook. Even letting her husband know if you assist her, you could be liable. Which is what a lot of these red states have done, is that they've scared these doctors into not doing anything. Women having to wait till they're damn near septic before they can have an abortion because they're not sick enough. They want you to be almost on death's door for a lot of these. Remember when they sat there and stripped back Roe v. Wade, Lori? They said, well, the reason we want to get rid of Roe v. Wade because we think the federal government overstepped. Roe v. Wade shouldn't have been constitutional because this should have been a decision left up to the states. Well, two things were wrong with that. They didn't leave it up to the states. They didn't put them on ballots for the public to vote on. They said, well, you elected me your congressman. I'm going to decide what's best for you. Well, we're going to put a 6-week ban, a 12-week ban, or whatever, and there may be a few exceptions here and there. Well, Ken Paxton decided, nah, that's not a good enough exception. If y'all help her with this, then y'all ass going to jail. And then what he did was he took it to the Texas Supreme Court, and the Texas Supreme Court backed up the Attorney General and said, yeah, you're right. She ain't sick enough. So while it was being held during that time, she ended up leaving the state of Texas to go have the procedure done, which she did not want to have to do. She was already a mother of 2. She was looking to add to her family. She intended to have a baby. But whether or not she intended to or not doesn't really matter. But it was the fact that she really did want to have the baby, but the fetus wasn't going to be viable. So she was sitting there going through the necessary procedures to make sure that she had the procedure done. And they still said no. So you can look at this as being disingenuous, Lori, that they never really wanted there to be any exceptions for abortion. They didn't want abortion under any circumstances. And they used the guise of, oh, well, we'll make exceptions, rape, incest, life of the mother, yada, yada, yada. But when it became the time for the life of the mother, because the other thing too with this, Lori, was not only was the fetus not going to be viable, but there was also a chance that if she went through with the childbirthing, it could prevent her from being able to have more children.
But
She could,
isn't that the point?
she could either die, or she could be scarred so bad she wouldn't be able to have any more children at all.
But isn't that the point of what they're trying to do with their legislation, that
No.
basically you're telling people that they have to have a child, and you're forcing them, again, whether if it's medically necessary or not, or forcing them to have a child for this.
Well,
but then it's like, but then when you go into talking about food, SNAP, this way, low income, like there's a whole bunch of other things where if you're saying that I'm pro-life, and then you're concerned about this baby that's coming out here, but then you're talking about, but then you, on the flip side, and again, this is away from it, you're talking about the border and people coming across the way, but you're forcing people to have, because for what? It just is always a flip side, and it's just stupid.
Let me answer that. So there's two things at play there. Pro-life, we can agree, probably sounds better than being anti-abortion. Because and think about it this way. It's better to say what you're for than what you're against. So pro means for. I'm for life. Anti-abortion.
Not really.
Well, no, I don't mean in real words. I mean in branding. When you're branding something.
Yes, branding. Yes, marketing. Yes.
You're trying to market yourself. It's better to say I'm pro-life than I'm anti-abortion. Because that just makes it seem like you're against stuff, but it doesn't say what you're for. So then they group in the whole life part, even though what you're really for is pro-birth. You're for pro-birth because all you care about is life at the time of birth, not what happens after that mother is born. You don't care after that point. Be well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If you don't have no bootstraps, you better go make some, learn how to make some, and things like that. They are pro-birth. Why are they pro-birth, Lori? It's simple. Money. The more people that they can birth, the less immigrants have to come and replace them.
But they don't want those jobs anyway.
It ain't gotta make sense.
But they don't want they don't want those jobs anyway. I am not gonna see Jim Bob out picking
Lord,
in 100-degree heat.
Lord,
for vegetables.
It ain't about the jobs. It's about mixing. It's about mixing.
Well, and then also if we
can have more white babies, the chances of us becoming a majority minority in the next 30 years doesn't happen.
Well, I understand that. I understand.
But every time Consuelo and Eduardo come over here, we know what kind of babies they gonna have. And then when they come over here and have their babies, I don't want to have to sit there and spend my tax money to pay for them filthy, dirty, drug-infested babies.
Well, they don't want to sit here and pay for the sweet on the poor Americans they have here.
Right. But when they have babies, they want to pay for their babies. They want their money to go to them. I hate to say it that way, but it's all this purity, which goes back to white supremacy. This nation has been built on white supremacy. The ideals of this nation have been built on white supremacy. Ask the American Indians. They were here having a good old time before white folks showed up and took all their land from them. It's about white supremacy, white dominance. Slavery was about white supremacy, dehumanizing people, not seeing people as the same as me dominating them because of my privilege and my color. Know your history is important because history keeps trying to be rewritten. And Lori, I wanted to go into this whole mess about Nikki Haley because Nikki Haley was asked in New Berlin, New Hampshire, during a town hall, what was the cause of slavery. I'm going to show you her pathetic answer, and then I'm going to show you another video. We may run over just a little bit, so bear with me.
It's
Um,
fine.
but she had a very pathetic answer back to the first answer. So check this out. This is Nikki Haley. I hope I pull up the right one. If I don't, then I'll go back to it. That's not the right one. I can see it now. This is the right one. So this is Nikki Haley, y'all. So I'm gonna play it now.
Easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running for president. I wanted to see your
That's a good thing.
on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government and what the rights of the people are. And I will always stand by the fact that I think government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. Government doesn't need to tell you how to live your life. They don't need to tell you what you can and can't do. They don't need to be a part of your life. They need to make sure that you have freedom. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
The cannabis
All right, let me jump before I jump into that one. So that was Nikki Haley basically saying government, what was the Civil War about? Well, it was about, government's role in this and that and the other and yada 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 yada. And Nikki Haley went on this whole thing about freedoms for everybody and the freedom to do what you want to do. And I'm sitting there thinking, so freedom of religion and freedom of this, and I'm like, so you mean like the freedom to, I don't know, love who you love, the freedom to have autonomy on your body? You see the hypocrisy in that is that if the Civil War was fought for your freedoms, why is it in 2023 that voter rights are being stripped? Why is it that women don't have autonomy over their body? Why do people have Lord, LBT, Lord have mercy. Now I can't get it right. Get it, Lori.
LGBTQAI.
IA. Yeah.
IA. Sorry.
Why there are so many legislations out there about that, gender affirmative care and things like that, if you have the freedoms to do that? Why are books being banned if you have the freedom to read? They talk about these liberties and everything from the Civil War, but it's 2023, and those liberties are either being taken away, being threatened to be taken away, or being diminished right in front of us. So in all of that, you full of shit. Period. So what she said was a no answer, and then the guy checked her on it and said, how the hell in 2023 you gonna be able to talk about the Civil War and not even say the slavery word once? I'll get into why the Civil War was about slavery in just a second, Lori, but that was pretty damn rich of Nikki Haley. And first she started out when he asked the question by saying, oh man, well, why don't you give me an easy one? Okay, it is an easy one. You made it harder than it had to be. And the question I put on one of my hot takes that are now on Empower TV Network, I do hot takes, was, why was it such a hard question for you, Nikki? Who was it that you thought you needed to sit there and walk on a tightrope for to not offend by just saying it was because of slavery? They always talk and they say, well, it was about states' rights. The state's right to do what? Own people. God damn it. I mean, it can't be no clearer than that. They fought because they didn't want to give up the economic value of owning people.
And free labor.
It was an economic boom for them. And they wanted to expand their slavery operations out west. And the North was telling them, nah, we ain't good with that. Y'all need to sit there and pay these people and stop having slave trade. You got to know your history. Now, the other rich part is Nikki Haley was the former governor of the state of South Carolina, one of the first states to secede from the Union, and in their letters of succession stated clearly that they were leaving because of slavery. That was in their secession letter. Now you're the former governor. You were born in Bamberg, South Carolina. So you know good and well hell why the Civil War started. Fort Sumter is in South Carolina.
Yes.
Nikki, you need to stop. You need to stop. When you are walking a line like that, Lori, what you're saying to me is that you believe that there are people that you want to vote for you that would be somewhat offended if you said the Civil War was about slavery. Because you know that you have some people out there that when you drive by their house, you can't look past the fact that there is a 100-foot damn Confederate flag in their front yard. That will tell you that the Civil War was about heritage. It was about pride, not racism. Well, they didn't see owning slaves as being racist. So to them, maybe it was heritage and pride. But your heritage was about you wanting to own people. I don't know how to get away from that, y'all.
And keep the money.
Yeah. You want to own them. So
you didn't want to. That's all these people that are like tax cheats that sit here and they said they don't pay their taxes, they don't this one. You protest and say that you don't have the right to this one. You wanted to just be able to operate freely, unencumbered. And then now, so when she was sitting here talking about freedoms and this one have the freedom to have and to do what you want to do, the freedom also comes with some type of control and to make sure that there are checks and balances in that place. So when she was saying that, it was just utterly ridiculous. And then the whole thing is, she's just horrible.
Yeah, well, and then the other part when she talked about freedoms, she said freedom for everybody. I'm like, well, y'all was already free. We were fighting for the freedom of the people that you were owning. White folks was already free. What did you need freedom
everybody
from?
else?
Yeah. So check this one out. So then she had a town hall on CNN. Aaron Burnett sat there and gave her the opportunity to re-clarify what she meant, and it didn't go any better. I'm going to break it up into two pieces because I want to comment, but this is how she started.
For your campaign over the past week. And this, of course, is referring back to New Hampshire. You were asked to explain the cause of the Civil War. You obviously did not mention slavery. And afterwards, you came up, you said that was a mistake. In fact, you said it should have been the first thing that you said. So you did come out and say that. Chris Christie, though, came out and said that you gave that answer not because you're, in his words, dumb or racist, but because you're, quote, unwilling to offend anyone by telling truth. What do you say to that?
No one's ever said that I am unwilling to offend. I offend plenty of people because I call people out when they do something wrong. What I will tell you is Chris Christie is from New Jersey.
Okay, I gotta stop it there first. You don't call
talk about Jersey.
you don't call people out when they do stuff wrong because you have tightrope criticizing Donald Trump for everything that he's done. You even said that he was the right president at the right time. Even though you were there in his administration when Charlottesville happened, when he said that there were very fine people on both sides, when people were storming through Charlottesville talking about the Jews will not replace us, you did not call him out at all, Nikki. You're a bold-faced ass liar. Let me keep going.
Should have said slavery right off the bat. But if you grow up in South Carolina, literally in second and third grade, you learn about slavery. You grow up and you have, I had Black friends growing up. It is a very talked about thing.
Okay, why Black folk got to be interjected into this?
Why must they always talk about my Black friend?
Well,
the one Black friend. One.
Well, look at this audience. You see any Black folks in there?
I think Tyrone's in the back getting the garbage. But that's just me.
I don't see one brother in this audience, and I ain't saying that this is the whole audience, but my God, they damn sure ain't getting no front row seats. So why are you interjecting your Black friends as a way to try to say, listen, most of the time when people do that, it's to counter the fact of being accused of being racist. Aaron Burnett led off the conversation by intimating the fact that Chris Christie isn't accusing you of being racist. He's accusing you of trying to be too handsy and not wanting to offend anybody. That's all he said. But when you sitting there just trying to pull words out your ass, you just start saying stuff because you think, oh, I got to go on the defensive. And the crazy part of this is you knew good and well hell after you messed up the first time you were asked about it, that somebody was going to ask you about it again. You should have got your shit together before they asked you the question.
She should have been standing sharp.
It shouldn't have been where you just didn't see this coming. You had already heard all of the negative criticism and everything else about the fact that you couldn't say slavery, and this was going to be your best answer to come back with. You have PR teams and everybody else that you can sit aside and say, okay, Governor, this is what I think we should phrase this as, and it's called damage control. This is not damage control. This is sitting there taking a fire and saying, you know what? I know that hose of water would really remedy this fire, but I just can't help but take that gasoline truck and drive it through that sumbitch. Because that's what she did. So she brings up her Black friends and says, well, we learned this in first and second grade. Okay. Well, if you learned it in first and second grade, when he asked the question, it should have almost fell out your damn mouth. If you learned it in first and second grade, when somebody, okay, I'm going to connect two things. You turned around and told the guy that initially asked, why are you asking me a hard question? How hard could it be when you learned it in first and second grade, Nimrata? That's your name. Nimrata. How hard could it be when you already learned about it in first and second grade? So it wasn't a tough question. It was a tough question because you didn't want to answer it. And you still didn't have a better answer. Let's listen to more.
We have a big history in South Carolina when it comes to, slavery, when it comes to all the things that happened with the Civil War, all that. I was thinking past slavery and talking about the lesson that we would learn going forward.
Okay, bullshit. So, number one, how do you look past slavery? What the hell does that even mean? I was thinking past slavery. Well, you know what? That's what all these book bans are for. We want to look past stuff. We don't want to dwell on the fact that we was whooping people's ass and raping people, splitting people up from their families, giving them new names, trying to program them and all this other kind of stuff. We just want to look. I was looking past all of that and really reflect on what did we learn from this experience?
Obviously nothing, because if you don't go back to see what has happened and acknowledge it, going past it doesn't anything. This is why she sounds retarded.
And Lori, you're right. And that would be stupid too, because he specifically said what was the cause of the Civil War. He didn't say, what do you think we have learned by what happened with the Civil War? And then she could reflect and say, man, that was a really dark time in our history. And hopefully that we've learned that everybody needs to be treated the same, and that we need to all understand what happened so that we don't repeat that, and go on in that direction. That wasn't the question that the gentleman asked her in New Hampshire. He said, what was the cause of the Civil War? That's what he asked you, Nikki. I'm sorry, Nimrata. He asked you what caused the Civil War. He didn't ask you to opine about what your lessons that you learned from it. And you couldn't answer the question, but let's keep going.
I shouldn't have done that. I should have said slavery. But in my mind, that's a given that everybody associates the Civil War with slavery.
Okay, that's a given. But you said Chris Christie from New Jersey, so he would know that y'all learned that in the first, second grade, because you're insinuating up in Jersey they don't learn about slavery. Whatever. So it was already in my mind, and I just thought past that because that was an easy answer. Yes, it was an easy answer, and you couldn't give it. You refused to give it. You danced around it.
Plus, she
So when you
also
talk
was
about
dealing
slavery-
with selective hearing.
She ain't doing no
Selective in the sense of people that are selective, that they only hear what they want to hear. And she, even as badly as her preparation, she wanted to answer this way.
You know what?
Which was nonsensical.
She made a decision to answer this way.
Right.
She had every opportunity to just be forthright and just say it is what it is. But she was more worried about who would not like that answer than telling the truth. So good for being a politician, but terrible for wanting to be the leader of the free world.
For being a constant point of discussion and being a point in where you go. My children growing up in New York, they learn about slavery in first grade too. Can you share what the discussions about slavery were like?
Listen to this shit.
In your household? You've talked about experiencing humiliating discrimination when you were a little girl, things you remember. What were the discussions about slavery like for you?
All right. Before she gives another bullshit answer, the question is, and Aaron says she grew up in New York and she learned about slavery in first, second grade too. Wow, how about that, Nikki, Nimrata? People learn about slavery. You ain't got to be born in the South to learn about slavery. The only thing that you learned in the South about slavery is don't nobody want to talk about it no more. That's what you learned. So now Aaron's going to dig a little bit deeper and say, okay, y'all are in Bamberg, South Carolina, as the only Indian family there. What did y'all's household absorb and talk about slavery within their household? So this is where you would say, hey, Mom, hey, I used to have conversations with my parents about how that was a bad time for America, how I can't believe we ever thought it was okay to own other people, how I'm so glad that we have come such a far way in that kind of thinking and mentality. I am 100% sure that's the answer that Nimrata is about to give.
I mean, I think that no different than anyone else in South Carolina. I mean, we had the time that I came and grew up, we were the only Indian family in a small rural southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. So we dealt with our own challenges. And I remember when I would get teased on the playground and I would come home, my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. And it's amazing how that lesson on the playground played throughout my life. Because whether it was in the corporate world or as governor or as ambassador, when you're first faced with a challenge, if you talk about what you have in common, people let their guard down, and then you can get to a solution. So when you talk about slavery, it was not just slavery that was talked about. It was more about racism that was talked about. It was more about, you know, we had friends, we had Black friends, we had white friends, but it was always a topic of conversation, even among our friends. And in the South, we're very comfortable talking about it because we know that's what it is. But the goal was always to make today better than yesterday. And even though that there was, you know, a lot of hardened thoughts on that there, I mean, we went through it. I dealt with my share of dealing with race issues. We had the tragic shooting of Walter Scott. He was an unarmed Black man that was shot in the back 7 times by a dirty cop. And this was on the heels of Ferguson. South Carolina could have caught on fire, but we didn't do that. I talked to the Walter Scott family. I talked to law enforcement, and a month to the day at the bill signing, we had them both there, and we signed the first body camera bill in the country. A month later, we had the horrific shooting at Mother Emanuel Church when a white supremacist went into a Bible study and took 9 amazing souls. The entire national media came in wanting to make it about gun control and racism and death penalty. And I said at the time, there will be a time and place we have those conversations, but right now we have 9 souls we need to lay to rest. And I didn't have that luxury because 2 days later, the killer came out with his manifesto and he was draped in the Confederate flag. And the Confederate flag had always been either on top of the State House or right in front of the State House since the year 2000. And it is incredibly sensitive and a personal issue in South Carolina. And I focused that next day. I said, I want to have 4 meetings. I want to call Republican.
All right, let me get out of this bullshit because that just make you mad. So anyway, so basically, she went on to basically stick her chest out, Lori, about the fact that, first of all, she didn't answer the question.
Again, she never did. And then because I had many questions as an Indian family, because as non-white for this way and how you dealt with this way. And I was just like, what? And I'm just going to sit here and assimilate in this way because you're the only brown family in the town. Stop.
She brought up her Black friends again.
What? Jethro?
Which had nothing to do with the story. And then she was going into the fact about Walter Scott. They got shot in the back only because it was caught on camera.
Yes.
Camera
and she
phone.
had to sign that bill to get for the body camera. But go on. Yes.
You're right. And then when the Mother Emanuel shooting, where they took the killer to get some cheeseburgers before they took his ass to jail, and he had a manifesto. And yes, it was about the Confederate flag. And she like, people talking about gun control and racism. Yeah, it was about all of that, Nikki. It was about that.
And that's the heritage and the pride that this is for the Southern states succeeding in the Civil War.
She said that's a really sensitive and a personal issue about the Confederate flag. And then she went in to talk about how she got it removed from the top of the state capitol and from which you got to remember what the Confederate flag represented. The Confederacy, and see, Lori, here's the other part. And I know we're over, and I'm going to button it up in 3 minutes. How in the world can you say that you honor the Confederate flag, but you're an American?
No.
Because the Confederacy were traitors against America.
And seditionists. What are we doing?
Sedition against the country. You were fighting America in the Confederacy. You weren't part of America because you seceded from the Union. You weren't part of the Union. You succeeded. So how can you celebrate the Confederate flag when it represented your traitorous ways? You're supporting traitors. That is no different than pro-Palestinians. Well, it is different because they're not supporting Hamas, but they act like if somebody goes around with a Palestine flag, they basically damn terrorists. They're more nationalist than people that have the Confederate flag, Lori. A state capital should not be honoring the fact that they succeeded from the Union to begin with. So the fact that it was on top or it was right out front, it should have never been there to begin with. That was the whole issue.
The protest that was going on and on during that time when they were trying to remove that flag, and this went over and over in the many years that just sit here, the many petitions and this way to get this on here. And when she sat here, and again, I know you're getting on, we're over, but she is just a buffoon. She has true buffoonery. There we go.
Right. And what she basically did, Lori, was she tried to take credit for something that she was pressured into doing.
Because she never wanted to do it.
She didn't want to do it. But like she alluded to, the national media was there. It was getting hot. It was getting hot. And she realized at that point, keep trying to play both sides, put you directly in the middle. And at some point, you're going to have to pick a position.
And she wanted to acknowledge that she's not, even though she has Indian heritage, because in being in South Carolina, she really wanted to be more white. Because again, assimilation is better because that's the commonality.
I mean, what she learned was that there was more privilege on that side.
Absolutely.
You know, there wasn't a history that she had to distance herself from. It's easy to not, you know, when you come in from India, to kind of disassociate yourself with what happened during slavery, because you weren't on the white side or you weren't on the slave side. So you can kind of be that way about it, but you still need to have respect for the history and where that state has come from and some of the systemic things that still hold that state back as a result of slavery and the Civil War and things like that, which we would have to get into in another show. I'll wait for the franchise when he comes back for us to dip our toe into that, because I know that he's watching. I see him on here. Thank you for joining, franchise. And I know that if he could right now, he would be chomping at the bit to jump into this.
Plus, the white van has been circling our neighborhood.
That's all good. But listen, y'all, I ran over. That's my fault. Normally, I kill it at about 8:30, but I didn't want to sit there and probably because we were talking football for a while earlier is why we ran over. But it's okay. Sometimes it's like that. I'd rather have a real conversation. Hey, listen. Shannon Sharp's interview with Cat Williams was damn near 3 hours. So I ain't holding y'all for 3 hours. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in, holding it down with us. We're about to get up out of here. We'll be back next week for some more conversation. Until then, y'all stay safe. Y'all sift through this bull crap, and we're going to get ready for election season 2024. In the words of Ice Cube, yay, yay. See ya.
This is ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest.